Hey everyone, so today I am going to do my wax up homework, so I thought why not show you guys how I'm going to do it. So I will show you guys the tools that I use and the steps that I take, things that I've learned so far on how to do my wax up. So without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, so first what we have here is the heat zone wax tool heater. So we don't use Bunsen burners anymore for the wax ups. We use these wax tool heaters. So in the box we have the wax heater, and we also have the to plug it in. So that we have that. Next we have this little red instrument holder, and inside we have all the different tools that we're going to need for the wax up. So first we have this orange wax, and this is called sticky wax, and this is the wax that you put on first, and it helps the other wax to stick. And then we have our regular wax. So our wax is red, so that's the wax we use. And then we have our heat burning tools. So this is the tool that we use to heat up in the heat tool in this thing, and then you use it to heat the wax and then put it onto the mold, on the tooth mold that you're going to be doing the wax up on. So that's the first one that you use. And then you also have these two that you can also put into the heat wax tool to heat up the instrument and then heat up the wax to put onto the wax up. So this is the other one. So one's bigger than the other one. And then we have these two here that are used to carve the tooth once you have the wax on there. So you have this side here, if the camera would focus on it. And then you also have this side here, two little like wedges. And then you have this other tool. This one's kind of sharp, so I don't really use it as much. So yeah, those are the tools. And then something else that I learned is helpful is to have some pantyhose, and these are good to get rid of any imperfections or like bumps or like extra wax that you scrape off. So this is good to like smooth everything out. And then we also have in this box, we have a little kit, and this it's like a model, so you can look at it when you're doing your wax up to sort of compare as well. But when you're doing the wax up, let me show you. So these are your teeth preps, and every tooth that comes will have a identical one so that you can compare them to. So those are the preps that I have to do for homework. Oh, and then there's also this brush, just to like brush away any imperfections, any extra wax that there may be. So yeah, those are all the tools that you need for wax up, and tinfoil, but I just put the tinfoil underneath when I'm making a mess because it does get a little bit messy. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that you need for a wax up. So I'm all set up now and ready to start my wax up. I plugged in the heating tool. I need to turn that on, and I have my wax and I have my tooth that I need to do. So we're doing a incisor, and we have to do the labial side. So I'm gonna be waxing onto this tooth, and I'm gonna be using this tooth to compare it with. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so the very first thing, you want to get your tooth, and the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take one of the sharp tools. So I'm going to use this one. And what you're going to do is you're just going to scratch up the surface of the tooth. And what this will do is just kind of, you're going to rough it up so then it will hold on to the wax a little bit better. So you just kind of scrape it a little bit. And yeah, so it's a little bit scraped up. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the first thing that you want to do. Next, you're going to take your sticky wax and you're going to put a very thin layer of sticky wax on. So I take my tool, and what I do is you put it into the heating tool like that until it gets hot. And then when it's hot enough, what you want to do is hold your wax and your tooth in the same hand so it's easy to go from the wax to the tooth. And so you heat it up, and then you're gonna melt the wax a little bit and put a very thin layer onto the tooth. And you don't want it to be too thick because then it'll interfere with the other layer of wax that you're going to be putting on, and then it can see through, and you don't want it to see through. Also, you want to keep it away from the margins because that will also interfere with your wax that you're going to put on later. So I'm just going to make it thin all around. I think I put too much, so I'm just going to try and thin it out. Alright, so I have my thin layer of wax on. I had noticed that I put too much, so I just scraped off a little bit. So it just should be a very thin layer. And another thing, when you're doing your wax ups, you want to make sure that you're in a good position with your arms and your hands, because it does get really tedious. So you need to make sure you have good placement of your elbows and your hands so that it's easy to work with. So the next thing to do is, once you have your sticky wax, is you're going to start taking your red wax or whatever wax that you're going to work with. You want to put it in your hand with your tooth, and you're going to take your bigger heating, I forget what it's called, this one. I should probably know what it's called, but this is your, this is the bigger, it has like a big paddle, like a spoon almost. So you're going to use this initially to very slowly put on lots of wax. And what you want to do is you want to build up the wax, build up the tooth, so that eventually you can just carve it down. So you just got to heat up the tool, and then you heat up the wax with it, and you pour the wax onto the tooth. So I don't know if you can see that, but the wax just melts, and you just put it on, whoops,
That was too melted. Put it on to the tooth. Then I'm going to let it dry a little bit. I'm going to take off this extra wax that I got on the other side. So I'm going to use one of my little scrapey tools, and I'm just going to scrape this off because I don't like this here. So very slowly, you're just going to build up the tooth, very slowly. Another thing is, the ones that you use, the tools that you use to carve, like this tool, never put it into the heat burning tool, because it will morph it and you don't want that. So just put the heat burning tools, which is this one, and the ones that look like this. So I'm going to go back with this little spoon, heat it up again, and keep putting more wax. So, at a certain point, once you build it up, you're going to want to compare it to your other tooth. So you're just going to look at it from all different angles and see how it compares from the top, from all the sides. So I see that I probably should build mine up just a little bit more. So the height of contour is about the cervical third. So I'm just going to build it up a little bit more. Alright, so once you've built up your tooth enough, you're going to take this tool and you're gonna, I believe it's called burnish it. You're just gonna kind of smooth it out and kind of make it like an even surface. So you just kind of go back and forth and just kind of even it all out. And you see how it gets kind of like, I don't know if you can see that. It's like a little bit flaky. What you do is you take your pantyhose, you put your finger in there, just kind of smooth it out. And then you start carving. So I'm going to look at my tooth and I'm going to start carving. And what's really important to remember is that you want to make sure your margins are all nice and clean. So I'm taking this tool, the carving tool, and I'm going along the incisal edge, and I'm making sure that I keep the tool half on the wax and half on the model because it's sharp. So you want to make sure that you're not gouging your wax part. And so yeah, you just keep
So you just keep carving and carving until you have your finished product. So I'm just going to start carving now. Okay, so once you feel like you have like a pretty good formation of your tooth, you're gonna go back in, and you want to be careful. You want to use one of these carving tools, and you want to be careful because they're kind of sharp. But what you're gonna do is go on the margins, and you're going to just clean it up a little bit. You want to have clean margin, so you don't want any wax that's like on the white part of your tooth. So you want to go in and clean that part up. So make sure it's all flush and even, kind of like that. And then for the last thing that you want to do is you're going to go in with your little round carver, or I mean, I guess this is the one to put wax, but you can also use it as a carver. And you want to put in your CEJ. So very lightly, you're just going to go in and kind of mimic what was on the white part and go over into the wax. So just very gently put in your CEJ. And you're going to do that on both sides. And you might have to do it like go over it a couple times so that it finally shows up. But don't forget to put your CEJ. And then you go back in with your pantyhose and make it all nice and smooth, and you should have a nice wax up. So I'm probably going to work on this a little bit more, but I feel like it's pretty much done. So yeah, that's how you do a wax up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to do a wax up. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe so you can see more of my videos. And I hope to see you guys in my next one. Thank you. Bye.